Mary Sue is going to show us how she actually puts together these adorable applique quilts, how she creates that applique. And I'm telling you, it's not difficult, but you have to know the system in order to get it right. And she's got the system down. Hi everyone, it's Mary from Joyful and Mary Quilting, and I am here with my dear friend Mary Sue Davis. Mary Sue and I have known each other for probably 30 years,
at least 30.
Yeah, I mean just like forever and ever and ever. And Mary Sue has been my mentor when it comes to so many quilting tips. I have to tell you, and you know that's true. She will not admit it. It is absolutely true. She is the guru of coming up with all of these great ways to put things together, little things that we can use, which I have a few tips I'm going to share with you in future videos that are definitely from Mary Sue. And I always try and give you credit. If I ever forget, I'm really sorry. You just posted in the comments that was my idea.
And that was probably somebody else's idea.
Not true. Now I'm sitting a little away from Mary Sue for this demo because when I was sitting right next to her, I had the ears on the kangaroo up above my head and it looked kind of silly. So that's why I've moved over a little bit. But we are at our Project Linus retreat, and we have many retreaters here that are also joining in. So if you all have any questions, please let us know, because I know it's hard to see because they're off to the side. We're in kind of cramped quarters, but we want you to know that everybody's included in this group here. But what we're going to do is Mary Sue is going to show us how she actually puts together these adorable applique quilts, how she creates that applique. And I'm telling you, it's not difficult, but you have to know the system in order to get it right. And she's got the system down. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you, she'll take you through the process, and then we'll talk about how we put this together to create these quilts. Now, Mary Sue, how many great-grandchildren do you have that you've done this for?
I have 2 great-grandchildren, and one is 6 weeks old, and this cow is her quilt.
Isn't that the sweetest
And so
thing?
we had to wash it because she's already been on it.
Oh, it's so
So
cute.
you can see how they wash up, because I do not wash my fabric before I start.
Well, and we'll move over too so that you can see all this stuff. We're taking up space right now, but the kangaroo, who's the kangaroo for?
The kangaroo, my best friend that has lived across the street from me since 1968, is becoming a great-grandma.
Oh.
And that's for her great-grandson.
Isn't that sweet? So anyway, there's always somebody to make a quilt for, and especially when we make for kids, it's so much fun to be creative and to use our fabrics. And now you use scraps, right?
Scraps.
Oh, yeah, so she's using scraps on this. You don't have to go out and spend a ton of money. We'll walk you through the process and then give you some tips on how to make this really your own. Now, this works well for, we're here for Project Linus, and I know many of you don't know about Project Linus. Project Linus is a nonprofit organization, 501c3. We make blankets for seriously ill and traumatized children, which includes Afghans, quilts, and fleece blankets. That's why we lump everything into the blanket category. But we are always looking for ways to create those kids' quilt, maximizing what we have, the fabrics that we have, and using every little bit of scrap that's in our stash to make sure that we're not wasteful. So that's what we're going to talk about also. So Mary Sue, I'm just going to let you get started, and then if we have any questions along the way, please let me know and we'll try and answer them. So
Thank you.
Let's go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So the first thing is to find your subject. And these here, again, are perfect for Project Linus because they're quick and easy. So the first thing you have to do is find your photograph or picture, or draw your picture that you're going to use. And then you've got to figure out how to get it to paper, to fabric. So I have gone through hundreds and hundreds of coloring books. Allaboutcoloring.com is another place that I get them. My granddaughter actually sent me a picture of this cow. I put it all over trying to find a pattern. No one had a pattern, so I kind of drew my own. So after you get your pattern, what I do, I don't have a giant copier, so what I do is I took my photographs, or what I wanted to do, down to the print shop, and I have them printed on a legal size paper, especially if they're in color, if I want to know the colors. Then I take them home and I put them on my light board, and I trace this again, but I trace it with a Sharpie. So I just get the black lines. I then take it back to the print shop, and they print me this size. As big as you want it. So that's your pattern. Okay? So for the purpose of the camera.
So they printed it on this paper?
Yes, this is their paper.
And this is like Staples or what?
Yes, this was from Staples, and so it's like blueprint paper, you know, when they print big blueprints. And so that's what this is. Okay. So then I take it back home.
So do you tell them I want it this size by
Right.
this size?
Right.
So it's going to fit
I
in
always,
here.
well, I just tell them I want it as big as they possibly can make it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So then when I take it home, and I'm going to show you kind of miniature versions. I take it home, and so this is the giraffe that we're doing. So here's what I gave Kinko's. I brought it home. I traced this.
And normally then you would do the bigger one here, but for this purpose, we're using the small
for the
one.
purpose of doing the video, I did the small one. So I then take these and I copy them onto fusible webbing. This is the fusible webbing. And you want to use the thinnest that you possibly can get because it makes the quilt softer. So you trace them all onto fusible webbing. Then you're going to cut it out. And this here, yellow, this little tiny piece is going to be his head. This here is going to be part of his neck.
So you're just using all fun scraps to make just a fun scrappy looking.
These are.
I tend to be really realistic. Like I'd look and say, I have to have black here and brown here and white here. And you don't. Look at that cow. That cow is so cute. And it's just all fun fabrics on there.
The
Same
funkier,
thing here.
look, the funkier you make them, the more fun they are.
They really are.
And so now what I'm going to do, now this I'm not going to what I call window. I'm just going to, so there's the neck part. I'm just going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut just on that black line. Now one thing you have to remember, on here, this ear goes underneath his head. So you have to leave a little extra. And if you don't, it's okay. You just have to run 2 stitch lines.
But it is a lot handier
If
when
you-
you've got that
yes.
tucked underneath.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, so.
Same thing here, like with the snout. You've got this and this is over top of it.
Right. So on this giraffe, this neck is going to be a little bit, either I have to decide over or under his head. So then I cut it out on the line. And we have a light box here, just so you can make, or so I can maybe see where it's going to go. I put my piece of fabric on, and this here was a scrap from another quilt.
We kind of made a homemade light box with just a plastic box and our cell phones. So if you have a normal, regular light box, it's usually a little bit brighter.
So I think I want this on first before I put his head on. So I peel the back off.
You've got background fabric right side up, and this is what you're starting to create your giraffe.
So there's the first part of his neck. So what I did is I've got it kind of between his neck and the next piece. And then you're going to take it over to your table or over to your ironing board, and you're going to press it while the iron's heating up. The other way you can do it, and here again, it's all about saving, is I take and I do what they call window applique. So I'm going to, here again, I cut out a little bit bigger before you put it on your fabric. You got to cut out like 1/4 of an inch all the way around. And it can be rough cut. You're gonna cut this away anyways. And then to window it, especially when you do the big ones, because that's a lot of fusing, I make a little snip and I cut 1/4 of an inch.
Oh, good idea.
Inside here.
I'll see that. And you can use that center for other pieces. That
Oh,
are
you can
smaller.
use it. Well, this one here is little enough it would be like an eyeball.
Yeah, true.
But on the big pieces, you can get all these a lot of pieces out of the big ones.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And it doesn't make the quilt quite as stiff.
I use the Heat and Bond light, but it still does give some stiffness to it. Even the light, I've used the Ultra Hold and it's terrible.
Yeah.
You can't even bend the quilt. I would never use that for this.
So now, all I would do is I would take this and I would fuse it. Oh, let's see, what do we want to make his tail? Let's polka dot his tail.
That looks good.
And here again, so these here, I'll show you, this is all part of the giraffe that we're doing. This is I found a charm square. This is a charm square. This is a charm square and I'm only going to use that much. So, you know, I got plenty to make some more. see if we can get it to hold this time.
Ah, yes. Yeah. Perfect.
So that's the first piece of the giraffe.
The beginning.
Yeah, the beginning. So let's just rough cut this here. Now, when you're putting it on your fabric, you got to put it on the back side of your fabric.
Yeah, I've made that error.
So I'll let Mary press this. It's going to be on the back side of the fabric. So while she's ironing, I'm cutting out piece 4 for the giraffe, and here again I'm making it a little bit longer on each end until I decide which way I'm going to tuck it in.
And even if you do make a mistake, you know, I mean, it's very forgiving.
It's very forgiving.
Yeah.
And here again, you can do this even with your big ones. You can put your big one on a light box or on your window and kind of trace, especially if you're using light fabric, trace the outline of the animal, and then you just put the pieces on. You don't have to use the light box each time.
Yeah.
So here again, we peel the back off, and I think we're going to put it this way. So if you see that, see how the neck's coming down this way.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll send it over to Mary. And here again, this is for the elephant. What you do on this now is when you're going to cut on your line. Cut on your line. And here again, you got to remember this tail is probably going to be underneath something. So I'm going to cut a little bit extra up here.
That's nice that there's so little waste to that.
And if you have scissors that are for applique, really they're serrated a little bit, it helps with fraying. So I don't have it ready yet, but now that's ready to be appliqued onto the elephant.
That's the other one that you're working on.
Yeah, that's another one I'm working on. So,
but you can see the larger pieces then too.
Yeah, so here's the elephant.
Oh, cute.
And actually, if you look, this is actually cut the right way. So on the fabric, that's going to go right there.
And now, okay, did you find just the elephant and then you drew the lines to make the patchwork?
No.
Or was it that way?
Well, yeah, this one was actually patchwork already. Okay. It was actually embroidered.
Okay.
And so then I did my own breaking it up where I wanted it and stuff.
Yeah, and then think about that. You could really use these in smaller blocks too, and have a patchwork small one. The big one is what, you know, that's what we're really doing here.
Right.
But if you wanted to, you could do smaller pieces.
Well,
too.
That's like this here. I mean, this here is not going to go to waste, even though it's a small piece. This is going to go. I'm going to start bordering this with fun fabrics, and it's going to end up in a Linus quilt blanket.
Adorable.
Yeah. And so I don't have to always do big, but I like doing big because that's
so
fast
cute.
and easy. So when you have it all appliqued down, this is what you have. So that's the next step. That's your appliqued piece. And here again, I found this fabric in my sewing room on my shelf. Why I bought it, I have no clue.
Can you see all that?
And so, yeah. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to take it to my sewing machine and I'm going to do a blanket stitch all the way around him. Now you can do it one color. If you have lots of threads, you can match your colors. And then I quilt it. I put my batting and my backing on. I quilt it. Then I'll put in some definition lines of his mouth, his eyes. And some of the eyes you can do round and applique them on, but I do most of mine after I quilt it. And that's what this is. This here is one I actually finished this week here at our Project Linus retreat. And it was all quilted, it was all appliqued. This is all appliqued with a blanket stitch. And then last night in my room, Joey didn't have any eyes. Going, oh, Joey's got to have some eyes. And I happen to have some black polka dotted fabric here. I cut the eyes out. I fused it to some fusing, except I didn't have my iron in my room, so I used my curling iron. You got to improvise when you can, and I'll tell you what, it worked great. And so I cut it out, and then I peeled my backing off, and I laid it where I wanted it, and I used my curling iron again. I laid my curling iron on it till it fused.
That is so cute.
So when you were giving us the smaller example for the giraffe, you're actually doing that on the bigger
Yeah,
piece.
it'll be at
Okay.
least this size.
All right, but you actually had a solid piece of fabric you were doing that on. As
Okay, so
opposed
that's this piece right here.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's the background fabric. So you have to have your background fabric.
Right.
So what they're talking about is this piece here.
Is the background
This
fabric.
here is the background, and then the giraffe's going to be built on it.
Okay.
And sometimes, and I haven't done it with the ones that I've made, if you have some grassy fabric, because right now Joey's standing, or this kangaroo's standing in mid-air, you can just make some grass and do the same thing, applique it down, and let him stand and have some grass growing up between his feet. So see, this is a window thing of the elephant. And so I saved all these pieces of fusing to make littler stuff.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that just gorgeous? And what a fun way to make a quilt. Now, Mary Sue has done some pretty extravagant things when it comes to the borders as well. And there's you can do anything you want. You know.
Right. I wished I had a whole bowl of this fabric right here, because I just think this is really fun fabric for all of the animals.
And I love the scrappy rectangles.
Yeah.
And you can do piano keys or anything like that, or just expand out just with anything you want. So
If you have a teenager, you can make this for a teenager too. I mean, you just make your borders or make your background bigger and add more borders and
adorable.
And
yeah.
But like I said, for charity quilts, they're quick and easy, and the kids love them. Kids love them. My great-granddaughter, she's 18-month-old, and she uses hers as her play mat right in her play area. She has it all the time. So yeah.
So cute. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really
Thanks for having me.
appreciate it. And we'll hear more from Mary Sue, I'm sure. I am always trying to be joyful. Hopefully you too. But I will always be Mary. And so
I will always be Mary also.
Isn't that the best? Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Mary.